I want to talk just about a few things there. These are my opinions, and you can totally disagree with me, and God will straighten you out. No, you may totally disagree. I may be totally wrong. But I have felt compelled over the last few years to get more engaged in what's going on in our country because I believe we're about to lose it. I believe we're in real jeopardy of losing our country, losing our republic, losing our freedoms. And I don't think the result where we're going, if we lose these things, is just to meld into some European-type socialist thing. I think the worst form of tyranny is seeking to grip this country and use it for evil. Now, I've been saying that for 25 years, more than 25 years, when the Lord first showed this to me. And I think we're in a fight for the life of our country, and I think we've got to fight for that. But, I try to keep up and informed with what's going on and try to see things from God's perspective. But I have been so disappointed in the Republican field that are running for president, and it just went to a whole new level right here in South Carolina. I think a new level of dishonesty, of deception. It was appalling. I don't think what do we win if we don't stand on the truth? What do we win? And I tell you, the level of twisting things, exaggerating things. Now, I am not, and I never have been, and I still don't know who I would vote for in this primary. I'm right down to last week. I'm just honestly telling you that. I'm going to vote in it. But I've never felt strong for Mitt Romney, even though I think he's got a lot of great qualities. He has a history that is concerning. There's a history of, the health care law that he had passed in Massachusetts is deeply alarming, some of the things that were in that. And to me, there's not enough evidence. I believe in giving anybody an opportunity to change, but there's not enough. You've got to bring fruit in keeping with your repentance. And to me, there's not enough evidence there's real fruit there yet. Real ownership of what is really at basis wrong with that thing. And, there's some other aspects. The firing of workers in his state that took place under his watch, firing of those who would not perform same-sex marriages. There were, the funding of Planned Parenthood under his law, things like that. But that, too, has been distorted to some degree. I haven't searched out everything, but the funding of Planned Parenthood under the Romney Care bill, and I'm not going to stay on this long, so we can move right along, okay, and something more exciting. But the funding of Planned Parenthood under Romney Care, I don't necessarily think was Mitt Romney's fault. It was an interpretation of that law later that enabled them to do that. And that happens all the time. That's happening on the federal level right now. We've had laws passed that federal funds would not be used for that. They twist the interpretation. This present administration just totally threw out that interpretation, interpreted some things some other way, and started using federal funds for that. But I don't necessarily blame that. But the Bain Capital thing he has been lied about, and he's been distorted. His record has been distorted, and that's not right. That is not right. I have been for many years kind of a fan of Newt Gingrich. I read his books. You read them, they're brilliant, they're insightful, they're incredible. He really has some workable answers for some of our ultimate problems. But I can't tell you how disappointed I've been in him this week for jumping on that Bain Capital, for using it. And just the whole thing that is unfurled. And there may have been some real dishonest ways he was attacked and his record exaggerated and all up in Iowa. But they've just fallen into a mud pit, in my opinion, with each other. Somebody's got to rise above that kind of thing. And you say, well, it's just politics as usual. Politics as usual is what got us where we are. Somebody's got to rise above politics as usual. I appreciate the need to vet the candidates and challenge them and whatever, but the spirit in which this is being done. And then when you start lying, outright lying about somebody and exaggerating, and these are people who claim to be Christians, I say, okay, that's bad fruit. That is not the spirit of truth. And yeah, it may, negative campaigning is more effective right now. That just tells about how far we have fallen as a country. It is not right, but especially when you got to lie and distort things to do that. I know a lot of venture capitalists. The riskiest kind of venture capitalism was the kind that Bain Capital was involved in. Yeah, there is huge reward when you win, but there's a huge percentage of the time when you lose. Now, there's venture capitalists are used for startup companies and everything else, but what they were trying to do was go in, take companies that were in trouble, that were destined to fail, bring in the capital needed to try to resurrect that company. 70% of the time, they worked. They made it happen. They saved companies. Some of them that were on the ropes probably wouldn't exist now, or things like Sports Authority, Staples, Office Supply. They had huge successes. They're now huge, prosperous companies. They had many. They had about a 70% success rate, 30% failure rate. They did have to shut companies down. They did have to lay off people. There's a time when you have to do that. Listen, nobody wanted to do that less than Bain Capital. It was a failure for them. This didn't work. We weren't able to do it. They lost money whenever they did this. I appreciate those who are willing to go out there and try to help struggling companies and have a 70% success rate. And then for that to get attacked, that just, to me, was over the top. Really over the top. Very disappointed. Most conservatives, I had a lot of friends that were yesterday down in Texas meeting, and a bunch of conservatives at a ranch, and they jointly endorsed Rick Santorum. Rick Santorum does have a almost impeccable record for social conservatism. He, there's some things there many conservatives are still upset with him about. When he endorsed Arlen Specter, who was a pro-choice senator, even though he was a Republican, and he rejected Pat Toomey, who was very conservative, running for that same seat. And they think that Santorum helped get Specter elected, and then he converted and became a Democrat. So that a lot of conservatives don't trust Rick Santorum either. That's the only mark he's got. And he's pretty much said, that was a mistake. I really did mess up. I think we give anybody a chance to mess up, as long as they get back up and bring fruit in keeping. And by the way, we have a truly righteous man with us here today. We've got Jason Hooper over here, isn't that? I say a truly righteous man. It says a righteous man falls 7 times. But he keeps getting back up. He rises yet again. Hooper's tripped up a few times, but I tell you, it is so encouraging to watch him get right back up, dust himself up, and jump right back in the fight. We really appreciate Jason Hooper. I think a righteous man. And we want to have that spirit with anybody. Politics is really ugly. Listen, I think we got to get away from this ugly. It shouldn't be that ugly. It's not supposed to be that ugly. It's not to be that self-centered and everything, but there's a huge movement out there for a third party right now. It's, I think, maybe bigger than both of the other parties. I've always, until, because of the platform of the Republican Party, and honestly, because of the honoring the fathers, to me, the party of Abraham Lincoln, I've always wanted to honor what that is. even though I'm ashamed that the party of Lincoln did not take up the civil rights thing 100 years before the civil rights movement was even needed. It just abandoned certain things. But I tell you, there is a movement today. You know, I don't know if you saw, just this past week, they came out, I think 30% of Americans consider themselves Republicans, 29% Democrat, which is the first time Republicans have outnumbered Democrats in America that I remember. But over 40% now consider themselves independent, and they're fed up with both parties. There may be a time for a whole new, breed of leadership in America. Now, that's all I can say. You know, if you want my opinion about the way things are unfolding, we've got a primary coming up. I believe in being engaged. I'm going to be there voting. I'm going to fly home to vote if I have to. But we got to pray that God will heal our land. We are still under judgment. The first judgment that begins when a country falls to the ultimate depravity of calling good evil and evil good and honoring the dishonorable and dishonoring the honorable man is capricious, immature leadership. We have a dearth of leadership across America, not just in government, but in business. I believe in the church, and I believe across the spectrum. We need leadership. We need the King of Kings to anoint some people to give us leadership. And but we're in need of a transformation of the whole system. Now, you can have the best system in the world and still have, you can have the best government in the world and still have bad government if you got bad people in it. You can have the worst government and probably have good government if you got good people in it. That's why God builds on people, not just systems. But there's something of the whole procedure and process that we're in now that, in my opinion, is deeply, deeply flawed, and time to cast it off. It's killing us. And I believe it's choosing the wrong kind of people for leadership and completely overlooks those who could probably provide us with the leadership that we need in these desperate times.